The last thing I'm going to show you in this series for this time is something called a function. Because if we look at this line here, this is kind of, it's really big. If you have to write that every time, you're going to go every time. So I'm going to create a function that helps us minimize what we need to write to use this now super awesome maps and inside maps. So our Inception map, you all saw the video, right? Or the movie, right? With Leonardo finally won a statue. So things inside things, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we're going to create a function that helps us write this in a more pretty way. So first, just above your color up here, we're going to create this function. Again, don't worry too much about the syntax of this for now. We're going to go through this many times to make sure you understand what everything is, of course. So just write function. This is coming from math where I remember it. Function is just, we're naming something that's going to happen. So we're creating some piece of code that's just waiting for us to use it. Kind of like these here. It won't really be written out before we access them or tell to use them. Kind of the similar thing with a function up here. But instead of just storing data like a variable here, we can do something similar to the mixin we used the other day. So the mixin is a standard thing that does what it does. We use colors and styles and sort of thing, and then use the mixin with an include. Functions are very, very similar to this. But functions, we can create whatever we want with those, where mixins is the set method we used. So instead of calling it mixins, we're calling it colors, like this. Something similar to the, instead of mixins, and we call the name, whatever, box shadow, we still have our parentheses, so it's very similar to mixins. And in here we also add our variables. I'm going to use color name. We're going to create some new ones up here, and I'm also going to create something called color, oops, sorry, no spaces here, color variant, like this. So these are the two things we're going to input into our function. Create your curly brackets like this, again, totally similar to the mixin we used the other day. So you could just have as well wrote mixin here, right? If I can spell it correctly, mixin, like this. But we have function for now. So, and in here we're going to create a hashtag. Oops, yes, that is a hashtag. And then if you scroll down, these are all the hashtags we know, the system knows, and we want the return one. So whatever happens in our functions, we want to return the value so we can use it. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to return this, we're going to return this stupid line here, so we don't have to write it so many times. So every time for H2, blah, 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 we have to do this, copy this, paste this as at 2, and change, oh my god, what is it, secondary, and so on and so on. So we don't want to have all this map get, whatever things. So we're going to actually do something similar. So return map get, like we had before, do parentheses. So it has to be super similar to this one down here. So map get first part, and then we also have another map get in here, right? Like this, and that's the two first levels. So map get, blah, blah. I'm gonna hate saying that word. And inside here we need to put in the variables that we are going to use. So the same as we have down here, we have our color for the color like this, and then we're going to add in color name from up here. Oops, sorry, we need to do the not the hashtag, the $sign. And that's the first part. These two things here we just added. So color and color name, so primary, secondary, whatever you use, right? First level, and then just like before, we need to add in which variant of the color. So should it be dark, base, light, whatever, right? So after this, just like before down here, space, and then you are going to add the last one, which is color variant. And then you end your, up there, and then you end it here with your semicolon. So right now we created a function, and the only really thing it does, it prints us out this here. Now instead of us having to write all of this really crazy code, I'm just going to leave this 2 down here, so you can see the difference. So I'm just going to delete this part. Bam! Because we created the function, we can now call this function, just like a mixin. So a mixin we would do add include over the top, and then we would paste in the, like, we need 30 pixels, right? And then blah, 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 30 pixels, brown, for whatever box that would be 30 high, 30 wide, and a background of brown, or whatever we choose. So we're doing something similar now. We're just gonna add or use the name we created, colors. So go down here, color, and do colors, and now it pops up, as you can see, and it actually gives us, you need to add in color name and color variant. So it tells us which sort of parameters or arguments we need to pass into this, so it can go from here, up to this function, and then it's going to put all these things in, and then boom, pass it back to this H1. So it's kind of a blah, 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 blah. I don't know what you want to call that. But we're going to be using our primary color, and we're going to be using the light version of, no, we're just going to do the secondary and the light version. So kind of like down here. So to do this, I not just need to write primary dot light. And that's it. So because we used this function, this here prints out this. This 2 here is the thing we're passing into color name and color variant. So primary, this one goes first to colors. Oh, it's this variable up here. And then in primary, it goes to primary from this color name here. And then the last part of it is we're looking also for the which version of the color variant of our, which is here, which is those in here, base, dark, and light. And I just wrote primary even though I wanted secondary. And I can't spell right, like that. So I'm just deleting this one down here. So let's click save, see if it works, go to my styles, and it prints out this super awesome thing here. Now, remember it starts with a 7. I'm just going to change this to dark, and it should be something else, 2225. Now I changed the secondary to primary, so it should be something completely different. So, oh, is that the same? Oh, I didn't change the color, so too bad on me. And stick with secondary. But right now, if I go refresh, that was already dark. Let's click it to light. Now you can see we actually have a lot of different layers and structures in our code. We have our variables here. We have a map inside my variables. We have a map inside the map, which is inside the variables. And we have a function inside this where we change the color. Then we also have a function up here we created, which passes data from those 2, which comes all the way down here. And we created a little system now. We created our little own programming system that uses all this. So I can use this function everywhere I want now. So if I had a H3, instead of me having to write all that map get thingy, I just type color, colorize, colors, sorry, there we go. And then I add primary, it's spelled correctly, yes. And I want the base of that, like this. And I need to add a header 3, of course, for that to work. Header 3, and another color with the function. So let's try and see if that works. So now you can see I have 2 different colors using the same function. So functions is something we can reuse. It's code we know we're going to reuse. If it's like big pieces of code, then we can put them in the function, put them at the top of the page, and then reuse them and use them as many times as we want. And that's the thing about functions and mixins. And so we need to create them when we have a lot of code. We want to boil down and make it easier to read down here. So that's kind of I don't know how long that took, but that's a very quick and easy introduction to functions and how we can actually extract data from them.